make a character for my game with Guild Superior guys and
Nice.
Wily Hobbit and stuff too. I haven't done that, but worst case scenario, I'll do that during the weekend when I get to Josh.
Yeah, for me, I need to convert some characters over from my second game and finalize Bill Meinhardt and Valiskaskis' character, and then have an extra one just in case someone else plays. So, here comes Lily.
Okay.
It's already a wrong button. I hit the wrong one. Cool story. Hi, Lily. Already got some ads going on. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, definitely.
Yep,
Can you hear us?
Hello.
Yep.
Can't hear you though. What have I done?
Oh.
Let's see. We keep talking here and see.
Take your time. Considering we're waiting for the other two guests as well. We get some ads running.
Yep. Let's see. We keep talking here, so that way hopefully you can hear us in a bit.
Can you hear me on Twitch?
Yes.
Twitch check.
Yep.
Twitch check.
Yep. I think the audio is coming through on Twitch, I think. Yep. That's what we have to. Yep, some minutes of the Yep. Good.
I'm gonna go and come back and see if that fixes it.
Lower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. People have to make sure to only have my microphone because Zoom can switch it around. So
Yeah,
make sure
I mean,
they
it's just
only
like-
have one. Yeah.
Who am I buying a margarita at GaryCon? I'm buying almost everyone. I think a margarita at GaryCon coming up. So.
I think Curtis won one, and Brett.
Oh my gosh! It's just like, no, I hit the wrong button. I went out of order already, and I'm confused as to who I'm going.
Well, here comes John.
Here comes John.
Hello.
Hello.
Lily's hopping in and
again.
out. Lily's having a sound connect issue, but she should be okay. And I just talked to Todd a few minutes ago, so.
Yep. Just need to sort out.
And Jay,
which
I don't know if you'll have time, but I'm gonna drop a couple things in Discord that if you have a chance to show them tonight, I'd appreciate it, but no worries if you can't.
Okay, I have something scrolling through that's yours already, or ladies die rolling.
Oh yeah, okay, that's one of the ones
I have
wanted
that up
to-
already.
All right, perfect. All right,
Send me the other one.
okay.
Or send me. Yeah.
But no worries if you can't.
Yo, Chip. It's all good, man. Oh, it's Chip's friend's Troy. Okay, dude, it's all right. I misread that. All right, I'm just waiting for Todd.
Yes. There we go.
There we go.
perfect. You can hear us.
There we go.
Yep, we can hear you. So
Now we
good.
just need your
Welcome.
picture. There.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I look very pale.
Oh,
That's
it
okay.
will adjust in a couple of seconds because it looked perfect before you
Okay.
just adjusting to the lights. So yeah, it
Yeah.
looks great. Yep.
Cool.
See, there you
good.
go. Now it's perfect. Yep.
Sorted. We're level now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Welcome.
Hi.
Lily John
Hello.
Birchfield from BlueboxRPG.
Hello.
Nice to meet
We're
you.
just waiting for Todd Stashwick.
Nice to meet you as well, Lily.
Awesome.
We
Yep.
got, rolling in here.
Perfect. Awesome. I'm so excited.
This is a lot of fun to do the DM roundtables. Yep, because it's
Yeah.
been free form and come up with cool ideas and stuff. So it's great.
Yeah, it's also great for me because I'm like, I can learn from all you guys.
We all learn. I've done this for 40 years and I'm still learning every time. So yeah.
I've been joking with everybody for a couple of days about how excited Todd is to meet me. So
There you go. Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
I can understand that, John.
you didn't have to laugh that hard, Jay.
Come on.
No, we all very excited to meet you.
Yes.
Yep.
If any of you watched my game last night, I incessantly got my balls busted all night long last night.
You set it up that
Oh,
way. It
really?
was your game, so you
I
can't complain,
know.
Jay.
Constant
Yep.
age jokes, vocabulary jokes,
Oh, no.
intelligence jokes.
Yep.
Sexual
That's-
acuity jokes all night long.
Jay, never were there stones more worthy of being busted.
Thanks a lot.
But that's the thing, meaning if you run your own Twitch channel, you run your own games, you have all the stuff to set it up, then you have to suffer in some way, so to speak. That's the price.
So true.
Yeah,
It's
bringing
only
in
so
awesome
good it can
players.
get.
That's exactly right.
Especially when you bring in awesome players like that. So yeah, and you
Thanks.
entertain them royally. That they'll repay you that way.
Yeah, tenfold. That's so
Yep.
true. All right, I'm just getting out all the shout-outs here, directs. But thank you both for coming on. It's going to be a fun discussion.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So whereabouts are you guys all from?
I'm Southern California. I moved here
Okay.
from Sweden about 10 years ago, so
Oh, nice.
that's why my accent is a bit off. Yeah.
I'm in Tennessee, just south of Nashville. I'm originally from Southern California, where I moved out of a few years ago because it was going insane.
Yeah. Bad.
when I moved in, went insane.
Just so
Yep.
happened to coincide.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you
No, I
saw-
would have stayed. I would have stayed if I'd known Anna was coming.
Okay, there you go.
She would have made the whole state worthwhile. So
I'm
Yeah.
not so sure about that part, but yeah, at least not money-wise.
And I can't remember on the episode of Picard Thursday night, but Todd's character here, we can tell him, actually said he was from Chicago, which Todd is from. He called himself, the dipshit from Chicago, I think he said, which is really hysterical. Which, John, you don't care. You're second row tonight. That's okay, right?
What, Jay? The disrespect is it's overwhelming. I'm.
Todd, hello.
Yep. Hello.
Oh.
Awesome.
Just testing everything out here.
You're good,
Yes,
man.
it works. Yeah, we can hear you
Hear
perfectly.
you loud and clear.
Well, so good to see you again, and welcome.
We were just saying, I really apologize for not having the correct quote. Did you call yourself a dipshit from Chicago on the last episode?
Yeah, he was describing. He was sort of. I mean, he character as survivor's guilt, and he was
Yeah.
kind of reflecting on the idea of like, why should he survive? I'm just some dipshit from Chicago. And that was in the script. I didn't.
That was so awesome, though, because you are from Chicago.
And I am a dipshit.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
But I really, Todd, we all really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're gonna get through the preludes here pretty quick, and then we'll get
Yep.
rolling. And Todd, we have Lily from A Nerdy Guide to D&D,
Hiya.
and John Birchfield, BlueboxRPG,
Hello.
and Anna Meyer and myself, Anna, who you got the pleasure to play with 2 drink minimum.
Yeah, we met at GaryCon last year.
There we go.
Gary Con, yeah.
Yep.
I'll be at GaryCon again,
Yep.
so
Inspired to
it's gonna be a blast.
venture again. Yep.
Good evening, everyone, as we're almost ready to get on here. So Sunday evening. I mean, I got so much. Anna and I were just talking, Todd, how much prep work we have for GaryCon. The
Yeah, it was
games, you know.
Yeah, I was really worried a couple of
seminars.
days ago, but now I'm starting to feel like I can actually manage to get most things done before I have to leave. So
That's great.
yeah, so I'm starting to get there. I have the pamphlet.
I'm trying to
ready.
learn a new system.
Uh-oh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm running a game of 9th level games. I'm running mazes, and I haven't run it yet. So I'm trying to spend this week. I'm probably gonna do some dry runs with some friends, so that at least I have a game under my belt before I have to teach it. Essentially.
Oh wow. Yeah, I never played Maces.
I
but
think you
sounds nice.
talked to me about that. That's old school, correct?
Well, it's a new game. It is somewhat rules light, not quite as rules light as say Mercord, but it's a more rules light than D&D. It basically kind of is a response to the bloat of much of where 5e has gotten. It is very streamlined. It is, we've talked in the past about the difference between old school D&D and modern Dungeons and Dragons. It's the difference between survivors and heroes.
Yes, yes.
When we played as kids, and as you play in first edition currently, It's much more Lord of the Rings and less Avengers, and I think nowadays it's so much about ultra customization of character. You'll spend more time working on your character, and this isn't a pejorative, my daughter loves it. You'll spend much more time working on your character than actually rolling dice at the table. And so Chris O'Neill and the folks over at Ninth Level Games were like, well, we just kind of love the stripped down. You create the character. You don't even roll the character. You create the character at the table. And the game starts at what they say the door to adventure. So it starts right as you're walking into harm's way, and the game master never rolls dice.
Ooh.
That's interesting.
That's the way I want to house rule my 5e too. That the players roll all the rolls. They roll defensive rolls instead of the monster doing attack rolls, because that keeps that keeps the DM's role, his workload lighter, and the players are more engaged because they need to do more of the job and just sitting around, so to speak.
Yeah,
and so that's something I plan to do.
I've had the good fortune of playing the game twice. And it just keeps it moving along.
Awesome.
You don't have your face poked into you don't have your face poked in a book looking up all of your spells. Like, you just sort of suggest what you want to do. And this is really cool. It's the polymorph system, and so you have one die. That's it. You roll one die, and that die is analogous to what you're playing, which is Vanguard or Sorcerer, or like there's different. So your role is your role. So if you're a magic user, you roll this. If you are a fighter, you roll this. So you only have one die. You always only roll that one die, and that determines all of your successes or failures. And you don't add any modifiers or anything. It just keeps the game moving, but it still welcomes that the unfeeling whim of the universe, whether something succeeds or fails within the roll of a die. Yeah, so it's pretty great.
Very cool.
And so I'm excited to run it. It's an OSR feel.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to create a game that felt like you were playing in 1979. So it's an OSR feel, atmosphere heavy, but not rules crunchy. There's not a lot of bloat, and it's not about leveling up from campaign to campaign to campaign. It's like, no, you create that character for that night's adventure and you go.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, if I get a chance when you're DMing and I'm free, because I'm going to be roaming a lot at GaryCon, I'll stop in and take and check it out. Definitely. I loved playing in your game last year. It was fantastic. So here we are tonight. Welcome everyone. Another DM's Roundtable. A few minutes early, but who cares? Let's get this rolling. Let's introduce our panel. What a wonderful crew we have tonight. We'll go from ladies first, of course, and probably the least experienced DM of the three. And with me, my partner, my partner in crime, as always, you might say.
Yep.
But Lily from A Nerdy Guide to D&D. Lily, welcome.
Hiya.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind,
Okay.
and your experience.
Yeah, so I've been a player for about 6 years and had a moment of complete madness whilst I had COVID and was like, you know what? I'm going to write a campaign. I'd always said that I'd never want to be a DM. It's far too much responsibility. I like being a player. And I'd promised my friends I was going to write a one-shot. And then that one-shot turned into like 6 sessions of like a mini campaign, and then started writing the actual campaign, and it's just all kind of blown up from there. And we just finished our third game of the campaign today. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
See below me, Lily interviewing me. I was their first interview on their YouTube too. So it was.
That's cool.
It's a long one too, about an hour and 50.
Yeah. We went on way longer than we thought.
That's great.
I want to give you and your 3 friends all the credit in the world. It was the most prepared anyone's ever been for an interview that I've seen. So it was fantastic, and I really appreciate that.
Awesome.
So, well, we'll get some questions rolling around here shortly. The next gentleman needs no introduction. And that's John. John from Blue Box. John, BlueboxRPG, a great member of the community, streams a ton of content, Greyhawk. John, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you, Jay. Good to be here. Excited about it tonight. And as you know, I've been running several long-term campaigns, and I definitely, to kind of dovetail on what was just being said, I love running old school style games, that OSR flavor, heavy in role play. I do embrace crunchy mechanics, but I make them fairly transparent, similarly to what Jay does, although my style is slightly different. And I like to consider my games and my streams an alloy of the old school flavor and feel with the new school technology and all of the different elements that I bring to the game and the immersive ambience, but still theater of mind at the core. And I love running long-term campaigns, but that stay fresh and stay vibrant and keep players engaged and constantly have the variation so that they don't grow stale. And I've been really looking forward to this discussion with the team tonight. So thanks for having me.
Of course, John. Our pleasure. You always bring some great insight to the discussions. Yep. Plus, you have some wonderful, wonderful content going on now and upcoming. So I can't wait to talk about a lot of it. Lastly, this the gentleman
a fantastic head of hair. Reed Richards going on
It's
over
graying
here.
by the day, Todd.
Mr. Fantastic, especially with the blue top you have on.
Yes, sure. There you go, Blue Box. Yes.
Good one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And lastly, the gentleman up top, I met about, a year and a half ago on Twitter. Was kind enough to play in a game with Ed Greenwood in our 2-drink minimum, Morton Didif. And then I met at GaryCon last year, and I actually played in his game last year. It was fantastic, and we hung out a bit. Really a wonderful person, and a star on a star currently on Star Trek Picard, which has been fantastic. I wanted to say it's the best season yet. My friend Todd Stashwick. Todd, welcome.
Hi, everybody. So let's see. In terms of where I'm at in my D&T life, I came back to the game late 2017 after a 30-year hiatus. I was a victim of the Satanic Panic back in the 80s. I started playing in 79. I stopped playing in 82. Walked away from the game, didn't even look back, didn't really even think about it until I think around 2012. I heard people talking about the game, grown-ass people talking about the game. I was like, wait, what? Adults are playing Dungeons & Dragons and now? And so that was it was a big eye-opener. That was Abraham Ben Ruby. I'd overheard him talking about playing in Lillard's game. And so I went back and bought all my old school books that I had given away in a youthful fervor, but thank God for eBay. And I went and grabbed all my my Monster Manual and just to smell them and look at them and hold them again and get that old feeling back. And then I hadn't anybody to play with, and so I was just collecting. And then around 2015, I was sort of like, enough is enough. I want to play D&D again. And then my buddy Yuri showed up at my door with the starter kit for 5e. And he's like, me too. I want to play. I'm like, awesome. So we vowed that we were going to get a group together. And then I booked 12 Monkeys and left town for 3 years. But luckily, through 12 Monkeys, I met a gentleman by the name of David Nett, who also knew Yuri. And David was like, you know what? I want to start a new campaign. I'm a DM. Let's do this. So we started seriously in earnest talking about it late 2017 and then rolled our first dice early 2018. Since then, I have 2 ongoings that I run, 1 ongoing that I'm a player at, and then I have one-shots that I do now and again. I've been to Gen Con and GaryCon. I too, like John, like to bring an old school flavor to my tables. I like to. I'm not one to really go nuts with character races, like all of the animals and things that people can be. I sort of like to limit it to kind of what Tolkien would have done, and that's just. And I cast no aspersions. Like I said, my daughter she just had a friend roll up a minotaur, but instead of half horse, they're half centipede. I'm like, you go, my wild child, you run. Let that imagination ablaze. When I close my eyes and play Dungeons and Dragons, it feels like Middle Earth. So I try to keep my games in that realm. I like them brutal with low magic. But again,
Todd, you and I are going to get along really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, and me too. Yeah, good point.
And like I said, I don't think I'm right. I just think I'm right for me, and that's the beautiful nature of the game. It is very porous, and it'll ship and it'll fit any shaped decanter. The game is liquid, and it'll fill. And so my daughter, I don't think there's a human at their table. I think there's like Tabaxi and Aarakocra and Kenku, and that's the world that she came up in, the anime world that she came up in, and that's what she loves. And so I am thrilled, and I will fan her flames. But at my table, it's cold and wet, and
so I agree. And you heard it here first. Todd Stashwick agrees that those kinds of races are for children. You heard it right here. D&D race.
I did not say that. I did not say that. No, and again, I am not a gatekeeper. I am not saying that there's a correct way to play this game, and that is the beautiful part of this game, is it is so malleable that it fits any play style. It fits, everything from Eberron to Spelljammer to Greyhawk to Dragonlance to Planescape to
Birthright.
To Dragonlance to what's the you have the box above you, the sun
Dark Sun.
That's John's second favorite.
It's just there's just so much room for anybody's taste and imagination. Just know that if you're playing at my table, I think I'm running a game of I ran a game of all halflings.
That's cool.
As just a one shot with all halflings. I just like I am of the if everyone is extraordinary, nothing is, and so I like things being scary and surprising and extraordinary in my version of things. Not that they can't be in my daughter's version, and she just ran Strahd. No, she ran Ravenloft. She ran a 5e adaptation of Ravenloft. But yeah, that's just my taste, and I am not correct. I'm correct for me.
But there's nothing at all wrong with that. I think that's a wonderful thing about D&D. No two DMs are alike, no two campaigns are alike, and no two play styles are alike. And that's what I think we're going to talk about a little bit in this discussion. I want to shout out something for Todd real quick to get everyone involved. Todd's signing. If you buy this book, Mystic Libations, which I have tonight, it'll be signed. Okay. Mine personalized.
If you're watching it, if you're watching this Sunday, what is today? The 12th? Sunday the 12th. Today is the last day of the signing because it has been a very busy day.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Oh wow,
that is fantastic. So just note, and you get that at the Nerd Circus, and I'll be shouting that out as well. Two other quick things. Sponsor giveaways tonight: 2 Troll Game $25 gift certificates and a $50 gift certificate from Infinite Dimensions Game, one of our 3D print sponsors. And to show Todd, I had a little bit of acting panache when I was a kid, and Lily, because I promised her this picture. Here's Jay cosplaying at a Ren Fair in a tuxedo in New York back in high school. There you go.
Amazing.
There's myself to the left. Walt, the ever mysterious Tim, and Tim's sister Amy, back who knows when that was. Sometime in the 80s, us at Tuxedo, New York. Out there.
Fun.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, one of those pictures there. So I just wanted to show that, get a little entertainment there to kick things off. All right, I'll do a question, and Anna will take some from the audience. And if the 3 of you want to ask questions to each other, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's wonderful as well.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
My first question would be, give me a thing that makes your DMing playstyle unique. It could be a rule. It could be I do this instead. Todd said something about the races, but he may have something else as well. So who wants to take that one up?
I'll go first.
Go. Cool, Lily.
I mean, I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. And I think that's the thing about being a DM. You're constantly figuring it out. Yeah, it's a secret. Don't tell the players. We're all figuring it out, okay? Yeah. Just act like you know what you're doing and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I think something that I've started implementing in my games is, especially with big moments, even little moments actually, where something's happened that you feel like would have affected one of my players in a certain way, I'd just like to ask them, what's running through your head right now as your character? What's going through your mind? And obviously it's only something for them, but it actually gets them to process, okay, how am I feeling as my character? How has this affected me? And I think it just gives them like more to play with, because then after that's happened and we move on to the next thing, that's still running through their brain and it's affecting their choices. And for me as a DM, it's all about watching the characters that we're playing with develop as the story goes on. If I want my players to start as one person and end as another person, like I want to see that change through the circumstances they've been forced into, because I find it just so fascinating and it's so unique to everyone. So I'd say that's probably my thing.
Awesome. John, Todd?
Well, first of all, I love that response, Lily. And I think that's a great mechanism, asking players either what they're thinking or even maybe in a given situation, tell me something that you notice, and allowing them to have that RP moment where perhaps they see, the player can make it up. I see the eagle soaring across the sky, eclipsing the sun briefly, and its majestic wings, whatever they want to do. And you're right, it immerses them in the moment, and they can, kind of to the point that Todd was making earlier, they can tell the story with the DM in a way that, they're not metagaming it. They're not, I noticed the +5 holy weapon at my feet and pick it up, right? But they're doing it for role play purposes. But I would say for me as a DM, it's really tough to pick one thing. And to Jay's point, I'm not sure anything that I do is per se unique. There are a lot of great DMs out there, but I think the orchestra of my system, I think that's what a good DM is. You're a conductor and you're using the elements of the players, the combat, the role play, the puzzles, the pacing, the timing, the backstories, the future, the woven plot threads, and then keeping it where you have a bit of a sandbox feel where the players have that freedom. But I find for me, I don't like a pure sandbox, because then I cannot do accurate and really effective foreshadowing and the deeper elements of storytelling. So for me, as a DM, I try to run the table I would want to play in. And I think if there's anything that I would say is a hallmark of a Blue Box game, is that my players have a blast at the table, and that they create memorable stories. They become super invested in their characters, in their stories, and they wind up feeling these interesting sort of conclusions and story arcs where you have the resolutions that occur in the process of the story, not just the one resolution at the end. And these things can span on for years and still keep, the players engaged. And I find as a Twitch streamer, if my players are engaged, if my players are immersed, if they're telling the stories that they want to tell and they're feeling those moments of triumph, but also that is absolutely balanced, as Todd said a moment ago, with the not everybody can be incredible. If everything is special, if everything's amazing, then nothing is. So things have to be difficult. They have to be crunchy in the sense that there's danger and there's, I like low magic worlds, because then when I find that glowing sword, it means something to me. So I think that's just sort of in a nutshell, my games are games which are designed to enthrall my players, and as a result, I find that people like watching them on stream.
Awesome. So Todd, that was awesome, John. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Todd, LJ, part of a nerdy guide, who says hi, Lily, and also says, Todd, I just bought a book, but I live in the UK. So there you go.
He spent a lot for shipping, so God bless you.
Yes. So
yeah, it's crazy, the shipping. Anyway, as far as for myself, a unique thing that I do, I like to so to what you all are saying with your homebrew table rules, and I like to use inspiration larger than just you get to re-roll or roll with advantage. I like to make it like a Matrix moment, a cinematic moment where it's your Hail Mary. So you sell me what you want to achieve with the spending of your thing by painting me such an amazing picture of how you're going to use it, as long as it falls within the realm of you could roll to succeed, meaning within the realms of what you're rolling. If you got natural 20 on this, your inspiration point can count on that. It's like, tell me what awesome thing you want to do when you're spending it, and it isn't just about, because what I would not want is somebody spending there is finally like saving up. They're like, this is my moment. I'm going to spend my inspiration, and then they roll shitty. I'm like, well, wah, wah. It's like you saved it for that moment. So let's reward you of your moment of inspiration. Let's do something really awesome that'll thrill the table and cash in that chip. So I sort of loosened the bolts on the parameters of how inspiration is spent at my table.
Excellent.
Love it.
Excellent answers.
Mm-hmm.
Anna, to you.
I was going to say, I make travel overly complicated. That's probably the biggest signature of my game. No, that was a kind of a silly way of saying it. What I'm saying is that since maps are a big part of it, but it's the overland travel, the way that I use the world's canvas, meaning I want to visualize the world so people know where every tree is, where every house is, so they can feel at home. They can, we've been on this hill before, like, it looks like that. I want to get that inside view of like you're watching a movie, that you can actually go around seeing it. So I really try to run a pure sandbox with that the players can actually envision what it looks like. And secondly, I want immersed in not only what the land looks like, but also the lore. Those are the two things that I think are things that I want to stand out in my games more than anything, so to speak. The places should be a location they're really traveling to, so to speak, and in the game and lore, and there should be things happening, and it should feel believable, so to speak. So my stories are probably not the best, my monsters are not the best, and stuff like that. But that sense of actually being there is what I'm trying to more than anything to really
Anna's understating her.
Anna, your monsters are not the best, and you created the Iuzian zombie goat.
Yeah,
that was a lucky shot, so to speak. So I have a couple of lucky shots. The ones that
Also, Todd, Lily, I think John knows this. Anna, with like random encounters, has no problem with third, fourth level characters walking down the road, and a Death Knight's coming down the road the other way.
When you run a pure sandbox, the Death Knights have to be somewhere.
Yeah. So they're wandering around someplace.
Yeah, you can't hide them all when you have a sandbox, meaning they have the right to live there too, so to speak.
Yeah. What's the point of waiting in a castle when you need to go out shopping
to go somewhere? So
And it's the killer DM now, but some of us have.
Sometimes I am. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Anna, what question do you have for the three of our?
I was thinking, starting at the beginning, and Lilith said about running her first campaign. So I was thinking that the very first, when you start a campaign, we all need to give the players a quest or something to do, so to speak. So I was thinking, do you have any kind of clever, remarkable or noteworthy ways of handing over a quest that you feel have been very successful or gone straight to screw it up, so you had to change or something in your campaign when you run, or even when you run the module, when you want the players not to know which module it is, and meaning, so how have you been giving out quests to the party, so to speak? Good or question. Started an adventure?
Well,
Lily, mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'll go.
No, please, yeah.
I wouldn't say it was skillful at all. This is my first time doing it. But for me, the biggest thing was like, I do not want to start in a tavern. It's what I've done for most of the
we've all done that so many times. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how can I get everyone to stick together? That was my big worry, is like, how can I get these very different people from all these different places to kind of stay as a group? Mm-hmm. And so I decided, okay, let's run a festival. Sorry, my lights have just died on me.
Okay, you're fine.
Brilliant.
You're fine.
We're back. I thought we'd start in a festival there's just loads of games for them to play. Some of them interacted with each other, some of them didn't. That was fine. And then all of a sudden the screaming starts and everyone's running around and the guards aren't nowhere to be seen. And all of a sudden I had like 3 cockatrices like coming out of these crates that some characters had just unloaded from a ship, and then they're all fighting together, and at the end they find a body on the floor, and then after that all the guards descend and they're arrested, and then the next game we started in the jail, and that was how I was like, right, they have to sit in a cell and talk to each other.
That is a great way of starting it, so to speak. Yeah, that's a great way of
I was going to say, there's an interesting thing that you said, Lily, which is how do I keep them together? I had a moment in an ongoing campaign where I would get individual letters going, I'm not sure why my character's there. And I realized while I was fielding this, I went, are they asking me for their motivation for a game that they agreed to join?
Yeah.
So, and I talked to another DM about it. He goes, it's not the DM's job to keep the characters' motivations invested. It's not our job to keep the party going. They chose to play a game with us.
Yeah, that's true.
And they picked, Saturday night twice a month to sit down at this table. So their job is to define their investment. It's not my job as the DM to go, I got to give them more. Because I was feeling that insecurity of going, I have to give them reasons to be there. And I go, no, they chose to be here. They need to meet me halfway. I don't have to do all the work.
Yep.
So I just thought that was an interesting that you brought that up, because I have felt those insecurities as a DM. Like, my players are not feeling a reason to be there. I'm like, I gave you a thread. It's your job to make a shirt out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the key, Todd. I mean, as a DM, your responsibility, give them the threads, create the platform, and they are then, once immersed in that, they're responsible for finding those things. And Lily, you've been described as the least experienced DM here, but I can hear already by the way you're talking, the way you're thinking, you're a fantastic DM. Your players are going to have a great time at your table. And by the way, your English accent, you've been practicing it. It's really good.
Thank you. I've been trying so hard
since birth.
24 years of practice.
I to start the last ongoing campaign, I was like trying to, and we were talking, John, about wanting that old school feel. I'm like, I want to do something to really invest them in an old school vibe. And so I literally started the campaign. They were black bagged. They were all prisoners. They were black bagged. When the bag was pulled off, they were in the room of the classic Trampier thing, and they had to steal the gems from the eyes.
So
Let's go!
Wow.
And you don't get any more OG than that.
And they had to fight all the lizard men. And then from there, after they removed the eyes, they were basically there as prisoners. They were sort of the Suicide Squad, forced to do the bidding of this queen. And then all of these other soldiers were like, all right, hand it over the gem, and they would be killed. They were promised freedom, but they were going to be killed. But then 2 of the soldiers were actually on the side of our party, and they killed the remaining. And now they all were like, well, now what? Now we're fugitives. Now we have these gems that are wanted by this queen, but if we bring them to her, obviously dark things would occur. And then they all got cursed because they stole the gems. So not only are they fugitives from the law, they are literally bound and have to figure out how to break this curse that is now on their hands, as the temple is now collapsing around them. They were like, in the first adventure, they were like almost like handcuffed together because they are now on the run. And that was how I gave them a thread and said, you guys are now cursed. You are the dregs of humanity. According to this, you were disposable, but you've survived it. And now you have the most precious thing that you're being hunted for. So it worked.
Todd, that sounds eerily familiar to John's last campaign. What happened to that group?
Well, Jay, first of all, by the way, Todd, I would play in that game in a heartbeat.
And I had the whole mini setup. You can actually look on our Instagram.
Yeah, I love it.
It was all lit up. I had Moloch, and I had all of the Dwarven Forge set up. It was like pull off the curtain, revealed it. Yeah, it was fun.
I love that. I love it. What Jay's harassing me about, and yes, I use both the physical terrain and I use a 3D VTT here, so I use both. And a lot of theater of mind is kind of a multimodal storytelling style. But to Jay's point, I have it's going on year 4 now, campaign called Greyhawk Awakening, and it's divided into different books, and each set of books has different PCs for the same group of players. So these same 5 players play in all 3 books, and it keeps the level up process moving more slowly, and all the stories are interwoven. And in any case, book 2 has been going on for a little over a year. The party gets to what they know to be sort of the pinnacle of the story. They're finally confronting the ultimate campaign arc, BBEG, for this book. And as they enter Shadewall, this ominous and foreboding keep up in the Raker Mountains, snow-capped, frost wind blowing, and I give every single bit of dramatic oration and put fear, chill your bones. And they get inside this place, and I even do something I never do. Lily, I separately texted the players, and I said in this opening room, if you guys want to rest here, it's going to be safe, because like they've been through the mill, right? And I knew they get inside, and the first thing they do is a 3-way party split. They open one door here, they go down, they open another door here, triggering 2 different encounters, while 2 other members of the party go upstairs, completely on another floor. And yes, this 1.5 year campaign arc, boom, TPK, everybody's dead, game over.
Don't worry, I've been there before. I've had to tell my players, I'm like, just don't use your health potions. Something's going to happen and you won't need them. Just please don't use them. You're going to need them later.
Well, you're a really nice DM.
I know. I was feeling in a good mood. I was really horrible in the next room.
I decided just because the players that I have at my table will never, they're just not the kind of players that would ever have this opportunity. So I dropped essentially Tomb of Horrors in the middle of the campaign.
Nice.
But because I wanted them to feel it and flavor it, but I didn't want it to be the complete meat grinder that it is at conventions, where you just like, you're dead, cycle in, take out a new character, you're dead, cycle in, take out a new character. I wanted them to enjoy the problem solving and the slow everything down, because they've been on the run, slow it all down, go through each room with a stick and poke at everything. And of course, to what you're saying, my halfling rogue decided to, on the first day, crawl into the mouth.
Oh!
And I'm like, are you sure? Like, I was like,
tried.
And I was like, you cease to exist. And she goes, excuse me? And it's that cold chill that like hits the whole table. I'm like, you cease to exist. She was like, what does that mean? I'm like, you don't exist. I mean, we got clever because, Moloch is involved. So she, descended to hell and made a deal and blah, blah, blah. But it's still like, it's still fun to take those old school things that are whole cloth and drop them into your campaigns. We just did the Temple of Elemental Evil in another campaign that I'm in that the DM dropped in. I'm like, I love it. And especially because it's a lot less prep for me.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
But the way I'm treating the Tomb of Horrors is, it was already been through. Somebody's already been through it and has now residing in it after the events of the original version. So some of the traps have been modified and whatnot, so that, I mean, I'm not just killing everybody every week, because that would get exhausting. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Speaking of exhausting and challenging, give us all an instance or what you dread when you're running a campaign. What, like, losing players or conflicts, what it may be, a huge pitfall to run a long-term campaign. Something you are like, this is a challenge. For me, I'll tell you real quick. For me, and Todd, you said this kind of in reverse. I need to keep it 43 years. I got to keep it fresh, right? I have to keep the ideas coming. I know my guys are a different story. They've been playing. 3 of them have been playing for 4 decades. I have to figure out how to keep them excited about the game, because how much can you do in 43 years, right? How many different types of situations can you put them up against? And there's only so many monsters to Monster Manual. There's only so many situations, but that's my main challenge to my campaign. Tough question.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, there's not a whole lot that I dread as a DM, because every circumstance, every situation creates an opportunity, right? So every crisis is an opportunity. Everything the players do that you don't expect is an opportunity. But if I had to pick something, I know it's kind of banal, but it's the IRL stuff. A player that has an issue and they can't make it. And it doesn't happen too often because I've got very invested players. But when it does, especially if you as a DM, maybe you have a narrative arc that's really focused on one player and something happens IRL and they can't be there. And now you're kind of scrambling to make the story make sense and play around them. I guess it's sort of meta, but that's the thing I hate as a DM.
Okay.
Yeah. I think for me, it's not something I necessarily hate, but it's something that was always in the back of my mind is plot holes. I'm just like constantly, especially because I've got, in my mind what I'd love the end of the game to look like, and whether we ever get there is a whole nother thing and a whole nother worry. But I'm always like going back over notes and cross-referencing what I have written down and ideas. I've got like so many post-it notes everywhere of ideas. Any time of day, I'll write it down on my phone. I'll voice notes it. It's a mess, but it's my mess and I kind of get how it works. And it's just, every now and then I'll do something like, crap, there's this thing here that I haven't sorted yet. I need to quickly brainstorm how that's now not an issue. Because I want, like we said, we want our worlds to be immersive. We want our players to feel like this is a lived in, breathing world. Absolutely. And when there's huge issues that suddenly crop out of nowhere, that's a fear of mine.
Well, Lily, first of all, it's to your credit that you're that conscientious about it, because that says what you want to create as a storyteller. Secondly, the old DM trick is that any plot hole is really just a mystery that you don't yet understand.
I'll write that down.
That's your post-it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Put that over there. I'll figure it out along to. It's all intentional.
Yeah.
I still struggle when the party splits a little bit. It's just because what happens is I feel sometimes when you're cutting to what's happening with this party, you watch players check out and the phones come out, and then I like to, as far as phone rules go, I mean, have them if you want to take pictures to have fun at the event, but we are so addicted to them that they immediately come out and people start scrolling Twitter. I'm like, I come from a school of improv that is like you constantly want to be inspired by what the other person is doing. And there is, a tendency now of I check out when it's someone else's turn. As opposed to, I want to pay attention to what they're doing because I may be inspired by that, or I can help out, or whatever. We are telling this story together, as opposed to, the party is split, so I can do what I want over here, have a table conversation, or get on my phone. And so those things are, when you're trying to corral interest and keep the energy going over a 4 or 5 hour game, those things I find challenging.
I think if I could just jump in real quick and add something to that, Todd, it's such a great point. And what I find is that if you've got, as a DM, the best secret to being a fantastic DM is having fantastic players. When you have great players, you can kind of just set up the world and watch them blossom and tell the stories with you. And great players will do exactly what you described in your sort of improv methodology. When you're doing that cutaway and split, if it's being done artfully by the DM, the other players are mesmerized watching their comrades role play and engaging, and they're getting inspiration from it and they're connecting to the story. Now, with that said, if you have players that don't buy into that and don't check in with that, I'll say this candidly, you may or may not want to have that player at your table, just as players can choose which tables they want to have and to play at with the DM. The DM should not be playing with players they don't want to play with. And if somebody is prone to pulling out their phone and checking their Instagram while they're DMing, playing with me, and I don't have that problem, I'm blessed in that way. But if I did, I don't think I would necessarily have a problem suggesting the player might want to find another table.
I think, especially with, the tables that I'm playing at, I think a lot of people, this might be their first campaign. So they're learning the etiquette.
Right.
They're learning, and these are very deeply ingrained societal habits that are very hard to break.
Yeah.
If there's if there's a commercial on TV, we reach for our phone. Like we do this. And so I often will try to say, hey, here's a table rule. You can use your phone to take pictures or look up a spell, but let's stay focused on the game while we're here. That we are collectively. So, but it is so hard habits to break.
It's well said. I find that works, and also the spontaneous fireball. That's also effective.
That's good. DM's crushing fist, it's called.
Yeah. But you can turn the table if you have the one person leaves behind and some goes off and start doing something fun. If you see that person sitting around and just being bored, make sure that ambush is not on the people that go out and supposed to be reacting. It's the one that stays back, so to speak. So turn the table real quick, so to speak, meaning there might have been someone sneaking after the party, and when the majority goes away, that one will pounce on whoever is there guarding the horses and think they are just sitting around. So
then you're also steering the game back to them, which is what they're waiting for anyway.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but so you can but it doesn't need to be. But you don't need to. You could just like make a little thing that you hear in the back or something, just something to make them scared and run back to the rest of the party or something. But I agree, that's a tough one.
Fear tactics are great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I have a follow-up though.
I'm
sorry, Hannah.
No, please
continue. A follow-up to what Lily said. Post-it notes everywhere. I want to ask all three of you: can you be over-prepared?
No.
Can you be over prepared?
No.
As a DM.
I think the danger. I think the danger is then of getting really excited and married to plot points that they walk in the other direction of, and then you're like, oh, and then you want to. So I think it. The longer I DM, I mean, I prepared a lot more early on as a DM, but then I realized that you can move stuff and put it in front of them, but B, the less I trust myself to improvise more now than I do than I did back then when you were opening up books and reading 1, 2, 3. This is in room 37. This is in room 38. And that kind of process. So I think you should prepare as much as you feel comfortable preparing. I mean, I read a lot of the Lazy DM books, and they're very helpful.
Yes. Yeah.
Mike Shea's Sly Flourish.
He's really good. Great. Mike is a great guy. Knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to answer that one real quick?
I
said no. So.
No, but I was going to explain it a little bit. That was kind of it because I've turned over prepping into a career. So I might be the worst person on the planet to make this advice. But to me, I think you need to be smart prepping according to your play style. For me, I prep the big picture, meaning I prep the big maps. I know where cities and towns are and stuff like that. But I don't prep the small, minute details. I have a list of names. I don't know exactly what person is in each building. I have a general idea of the type of, if they come into a village, I have a basic idea of is the economy. I jot down a few things of the village, meaning is it a wealthy village or a poor village, meaning what kind of services, do they have a blacksmith or not? Just these general things, meaning who runs the village and is there contention, meaning the basic, so I know the 10 basic facts about it, but I have no NPCs, maybe 1 or 2 that are important to some story plot. The rest is just make up on the fly. play. And just, but I have a list of names in the local area that I can just throw in, and I'll make sure to make a note of who. And that's the other good thing. If you run and stream the game, you get a record. You can go back and watch it and note it afterwards, which is great for just run wild and fill in and then record the details afterward, because you don't have to take notes. You can just go haywire. So for me, plan the big picture, meaning the general area and stuff, so you know where the trees are. If they characters say we run off in the north direction, I can tell them what's there, so to speak. But then I come up with the details later when it comes to who lives there. But the general thing, I want to know what kind of nature, what kind of wildlife is in the area, what kind of are there thugs hiding out in the forest here trying to rob everyone, or is it very lawful and stuff? So these kind of general tendencies of the land, and then I just derive from that on the fly. So try to prep smart that suits your play style. If story is really important, do a lot of that and skip the map detail. For me, it's the opposite, so to speak. So map prep as you feel like, so to speak, and also cover the things you don't like to do on the fly. If you don't like maps and stuff, then prep them, so to speak, and or vice versa, so to speak. So prep the things you don't like to do on the fly, because during the adventure itself, when you run it, you should, as a DM, want to concentrate on your strength, what you like to do, and do the boring stuff beforehand and put them aside, so to speak. So you only need to do the fun stuff at the game, so to speak.
I like that, and I think that's for me, I'm fairly well prepared. I don't think you can be over prepared. I think you can be over scripted. And that's what you want to avoid with your preparation. And to Todd's point, be prepared to leave things on the editing floor, which is always the toughest part of the creative process, right? So you may have prepared something, but you have to roll with the players. And if it feels like it's a narration to them rather than a game, it loses the joy of the game. For me, it depends on what I'm running. So as a DM, I like to give myself forgiveness to be underprepared, particularly when you're running, multiple campaigns. I stream a total of probably 8 hours a week, including my Lore Masters Arcanum. Yeah. And there will be times that you might, just with work and other stuff, you got to get to the table and maybe you don't have things as well buttoned up as you might like. Give yourself permission to be that way and enjoy what may come from just the spontaneity and the theater of the moment and the mind that will come. But in general, what I try to do, if you look at where we're at right now with Tears of Aird as an example, we're in the free city of Altamira. Well, this is an entire city, right? And the players have been in it now for 14 sessions. This is where they grew up as kids. And so you have shopkeeps and tons of NPCs and different personalities that they have met now that are in the dozens and dozens and dozens. And to sort of Lily's point earlier in terms of, keeping your plots consistent and not having holes, remembering how the NPCs were voiced, as much continuity as I can create there. To me, I liken it to the video game experience of if I drop an axe in a room and I come back to it 2 weeks later and I boot up my game and I walk back in there and that axe is on the floor, it feels to me like the game world is persistent. And so I think a lot of my preparation is less about the prescripted narrative arc than it is having as much of that in my head that I can keep it lightweight and quick, so that if you come back to one of the first things Todd said, I don't want my nose buried in a book. I don't want to be looking things up all the time and trying to remember things. So for me, the prep is to keep things quick, lightweight, and easy to access, but in a way that it feels like the world is contiguous and coherent to the players.
I love to before each session, because I only run ongoing and actually haven't had a chance to this year yet, but just because of life. But I like to do once a month with each campaign. So I have 4 weeks in between sessions. Now I have 3 different games that I'm running. 3?
It's okay,
one
John.
One is a one shot.
Sure.
So, but what I love to do is I love to write a recap before we gather, and I like to include photographs, and I like to include art in the email, and often a recipe from Mystic Libations, which is available at thenerdcircus.com.
Still going back more tonight.
Today.
It's a great book, everyone.
Today you get a signed book. But So I like to, for my own prep, if I have to recap it, I'm reminding myself of plot points of things that they did, reminding them of what they did, because they, I mean, I don't know what your players are like, but it all just disappears the minute they walk out the door. And they're like, what? Now, what happened last session? I'm like, okay.
Todd, we have an emote for that.
Yeah.
I have a tuna fish sandwich emote because my guys don't know what they had for lunch that day when they show up that night. Okay? and you know, I'm like, do you remember this character? A major character in the campaign. And you get the glassy-eyed stare, and I'm like, oh, jeez.
You know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, that's a good one. So Lily did. Yeah, so overprepared, and we'll move on to another topic.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I would say I'm an overpreparer. For me, it's all about, and I think especially for new DMs as well, especially maybe, I don't know, more so for people who've been players before and you've had like the luxury of playing with some really good DMs and you're like, they're great, I want to be like that one day kind of thing. But for me, it's all about what can I do to make myself feel as comfortable and as relaxed as possible when I go into running a game, because you've got so many things, as you all know, that you're thinking about when you're running a game. There's so many things happening. You've got to like drop something that you're like just about to look at with a moment's notice if a player asks you a question. And for me, I used to script. That was a really bad habit I got into when I first started writing like my one shot. I had a bit of a script going on. Now, if I'm hoping that they're going to go and speak to a certain NPC that I've prepared, I'll do like bullet points of important things I must remember to chuck in the conversation, and hope that, you know, the rest of it just flows naturally. But I'm an over preparer, but it's what makes me feel comfortable. So for you guys out there,
I would
do that.
I would also include prep being me going to Geeky Teas and buying more minis, me setting the terrain or printing up maps or handouts and stuff. I mean, that's the stuff.
Yep.
I love that stuff, actually. I love building, because I love the theater of it all. I you know, for lots of, you know, traversal, that's probably more theater of the mind, because it's hard to have the map go. But when it comes to the dungeons and town squares and stuff, I like the toys.
Yeah,
as
me too.
You know, Jay.
Yes, Todd. Yes, absolutely. For me, prep.
I'm not painting all my minis. I don't have the bandwidth, but
terrain prep.
But I like the toys.
Terrain prep is huge for me to get a picture of the perspective of what I want to do. Absolutely.
Yeah, I do a lot of drawing because mine's all online, so I just would draw out what I want it to look like, so at least I can describe it and act like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm big on that, and as Jay's going to talk about a little bit later, for example, with the physical terrain and minis, I've got, you know, stuff all around here. My table is not as big as Jay's. That is the only negative size comparison I would make to Jay, by the way. But I have all kinds of toys and all this, the neat stuff around here. And then I also like the VTT. I use a 3D VTT called Tailspire. And like, for example, for my book 3 campaign, which is in the Sea of Dust, but it's going to be based on a Dark Sun style world.
Cool.
And I have purchased a whole mess of really cool STLs for 3D printing. I've got a friend who's 3D printing all of these incredible Dark Sun minis, Nightmare Beasts, and the Mellicott caravans and the Dragon Sorcerer Kings, which look different than any other dragon in D&D. But then those same assets are being colored and modeled and placed into Tailspire. So in the kind of storytelling that Todd's talking about, I'll be able to have the physical stuff on the table, but then if I want to go to that really close-up shot of the combat, I'll have the same things mirrored in Tailspire. With a switch of a button, I'm doing the theater and the storytelling with both the physical and the digital.
That's awesome.
That's fun. I've been employing a lot more music into my my games as well, just having a Bluetooth there and my iPad there, and there's this company that just kickstarted a thing that will create ambient towns, and with a touch of a button it'll escalate the battle.
Yeah.
Like the battle music, and you can just
cool.
you can keep tuning it on the fly.
Yeah.
And it will layer in tempo, it'll layer in horns or something, and so you can kind of orchestrate your game just by like boom, boom, while you're playing and describing stuff just with a button.
Yep.
I don't remember the name of the company, but I'll get it for you before the end of the thing because it's
cool.
I haven't done it yet because it's still in the Kickstarter phase.
As far as music goes, for me, I always, and John especially, we have to always worry. The number one thing will get you banned on live streaming is using.
When you stream games, then,
so we always.
I don't stream games.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
For you,
do
Todd,
whatever you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever. But for us, have to own that music.
It's called Tabletone. Tabletone is the name of the company.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But
these guys are super helpful tool. These Elgato Stream Decks, and they make ones that have knobs on them as well. But these are all customizable icons. I've got all my ambient sounds, my lighting, everything here. So in here, I don't just use it for music. If all of a sudden, there's a conflagration and there's fire all around, then I'm in the fire. If it's nighttime, then I got my other ambient lights are interfering.
But you're doing this for viewers, right?
Well, no, but I do it for my in-game room too. So like I did this before I even streamed. Just my people in the room, I give them that same ambient, and I do it because it's got to be quick, right? I don't want to slow down, hunt for a piece of music, flip a light switch, and destroy the immersion. So if it's not something I can do with a touch of a button, I don't do it.
I have a DJ.
You have a DJ? That's
I have a DJ. Yeah.
Oh,
Callum. Hi, if you're watching. He's my DJ. I just sent him a list of music or sounds and stuff that I want. And then
what does he do Tuesdays at 5 o'clock U.S. Central Time?
Yeah, he's brilliant.
I have this that I use to call my games into order.
Oh, wow.
Yes, there's a breathing dragon. Yes.
Yes, I want one of those.
So that's Gary.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
All right, Todd, you win the flex down.
Yeah, definitely. We can't compete.
So it's worth walking away.
My motto as a DM is like actions have consequences. And now I just want that behind my head. Just breathe.
It's
every
so
time
great, and it's
that.
right above my. So this is my setup here. There's my my DM's pit and my signature Weather Dragon table.
Wow.
But yeah, so I have a little setup. It's a mess right now, but
looks awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
my table is like it has a movable tabletop and a recessed vault for my mini setup. Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm in a tavern, which you shouldn't start games in apparently.
No.
All mine start in taverns, but that's a trope I do on purpose.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I do it on purpose,
done it
though.
a few times.
I do it. I do it as a little bit of a joke. We always saw in Altamira. It's always in the salty dog, right?
Yeah.
Right, John. Even John's games are in the salty dog now in my Altamira. So it's tradition a little
We
bit.
want to see a detailed write-up of the whole inn with the floor plans and all that.
Yes,
I have it.
Coming.
I have it all, but it's not Jay, so I'll have to wait till his comes out and then change all of mine.
Coming from Troller Games. How about, do any of you three have a question for the rest of the panel?
Ooh.
Yeah.
And you can think about that if you don't think about it.
Otherwise, I have several here that.
Well, I get to talk to Anna, quite a bit. This is my first time meeting Lily. So, Lily, tell us a little bit more about the game world that you're in, maybe high level, the story arc, and then when you stream it. I'm curious about the sort of the mechanics of your game.
Yeah, so we don't stream. It's just for us. I was very kind of adamant with my friends that I was like, the world's a scary place at the moment, and I just want a lovely place where we can just go and play and be, the cliche, we can be the heroes and we can make a difference kind of thing. And that's something that I find very important to me. And yeah, so my world, it's a homebrew world because that's all I've ever known. I have never, ever played in a campaign setting or done a module. I've only ever played with DMs that have done homebrews.
Next month in April, though,
I will be though. I will be. Yeah, can't wait.
Where are you located?
I'm located in the UK, so I'm kind of down the bottom of the UK. Yeah, so I started creating my world the way that you should not start creating a world, by making a map.
No, that's the right way to do it.
That
is the right way to do it.
I'm the one
Wonderful.
person that
It's
agrees.
awesome.
Anna was like, "Is there any other way?"
Exactly. That was my point. There shouldn't be any other way to do it. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. I feel very validated.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's a kind of mid to high fantasy depending on where you go. So different countries have certain levels of magic. Some have none at all. Some everyone has magic. You know, people use the gust cantrip to dry their clothes on the washing line or something like that. I don't know. So it's I wanted a very diverse world, making my life so much harder as a DM to keep coming up with interesting different places. And they've all been inspired by like books and films and video games I've played. And what was something that I really wanted to explore in my game, and hopefully we'll get to do later if my players decide to do it, is explore the planes, because like the material plane is such a tiny part of the D&D universe. And you know, I want the mind flayers to come in and like go to the Feywild and explore the craziness that is there. And so yeah, I haven't finished writing my world, obviously, because I don't think you ever will. But we're starting in a very kind of England, old England inspired kind of country, where they're starting in a city, and there's a bit of a potential gang wars going on.
Nice. That's cool.
I love it.
Very cool.
We all take little bits and pieces from real life, or from a video game, or from another campaign setting we love. I steal Ed Greenwood spells all the time for Greyhawk. I mean, they've done it for Todd. You know that they've taken Mordenkainen and Tensor spells, and they put it in all the other campaign settings for years. And Ed is. It's even better when I get to use the spells against Ed, his own spells.
You just take it back. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the fun thing about it. And you take it from your experiences, which is a great thing. That's a fantastic question. Yep.
So Jay, if I could, I'll ask a question to Todd as well.
Please.
Yeah. So Todd, for you as a celebrity, do you often want?
He's like, what?
I love the humble. That's awesome. But as a celebrity, you know, man, you're on TV. Everybody knows who you are. You got you got a huge body of work.
You walk into a mall and say, Todd Stashwick's here, and people will say who? But
no, not among the people I know. But anyway, so my point is, as a celebrity, how often do you play with celebrities? How often do you play with the bourgeois like us? And and if it's the latter, if you're not playing with a celebrity, do you ever find that people are maybe intimidated by your status as an actor and feel like they have to live up to something in your games that is difficult for them?
No, because I mostly play with my friends in my nerd lair at my table. So in the world, quote unquote, celebrities that I've played with, it's mostly been for one-shot charity streaming. And really that's just been like, hey, please, I've called up friends of mine who are also actors on television saying, would you lend, you know, your Twitter followers essentially to help raise money for suicide prevention for Jasper's game. So no, and I've run games at conventions, and so that has been, you know, boots on the ground players like myself. I consider myself not a celebrity player because I've only been playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends mostly. Do I have found people, even because often with like Jasper's Game Day, people will bid for a seat at that table.
Right.
And so we will have, like, I will have a couple of my friends who do character voices and do their improv skills are very sharpened because that's their trade, right? Like this is what we do for things. We do voices and we improvise. So I have known and seen people apologize before they get to the game and go, well, I'm not really good with voices. And we're like,
yeah,
no need to do it. Nobody is here Nobody's being paid to be at this table. We're all here because for the love of the game. So it's a fascinating question. Not something that I have encountered. I really don't do a lot of streaming. I do 99% of my games are just my home games with my friends. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And I mean, I would guess if I were to meet you and play with you, the first thing that would put anyone at ease that's actually a gamer is you reek of immediate game cred. I mean, you're not just a celebrity that plays every once in a while. I mean, it oozes out of you. You're a gamer, and that puts other gamers.
What do you mean?
Exactly. Come on.
That is awesome.
No, I would actually say it's the other way around. I became an actor because I spent my life playing with my Mego and my Kenner action figures and playing D&D in the early 80s. All of that stuff sowed the seeds of my imagination that then translated into, somebody will pay me to do this stuff that I was doing around a table or in my backyard with my cousin. So my whole goal with D&D is to play, to delight. Like, let's delight each other.
Exactly.
Let's get in here and let's tell wonderful stories and escape this cynical world for a few hours at a pop. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, see, John, aren't you upset now you're not going to GaryCon?
I was already upset I wasn't going to GaryCon.
Exactly.
Todd is a normal guy just hanging out, drinking and having fun, just like all of us, man. And that's we just
maybe I'll figure something out. We'll see. I'm not going to put that.
I was going to say there might be silver badges left, so
we'll see.
Come on.
Just a wonderful time.
I mean, I've been to Gen Con and GaryCon. Those are the only two game cons I've been to, and I've only been to them each once. I prefer GaryCon. For that reason, it's very intimate, and it's all kind of under one roof, and I really had a great time. And I didn't run any games at Gen Con. I just went as a player. But I mean, GaryCon is one. You should come, John.
You should see.
Yep.
We got a whole community going.
Well, since Todd said so, then I'll have to be there.
Yeah, I know that Malku has a bed. He has a double room. There's a bed free there, so you can camp out with him. So
John's got weird habits, so I don't know if Michael will get along.
Excuse me, Jay.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're just. I'll let it go. Discretion's the better part of valor.
Yep.
Anna, throw one out.
Okay, I have. We discussed problems before, and there was two problems that I have that I've formulated into questions because I'm so curious what the panel, everyone here wants to have. So let's start with one. Meaning, when you run the campaign, especially when you have like homebrew and you make up the story or you run sandbox, I often fall into the trap that one, maybe two of the player characters become more invested into the story. They might be the one with the curse, or their relative, or they might be the ones starting to serve an order, or whatever it is, so to speak. Their characters get way more invested in the story, and the other characters just like tag along for the ride kind of thing, so to speak. Meaning, how do you get the whole party to be invested in the story and not just one or two characters, and also how when that happens, how can you fix it, so to speak? I'm kind of curious because that happened to me several campaigns that it's been very, and also because some players are very much like they jump on every little thing and they kind of take it all in, and other players are more like, when I'm a player, do you just want around sitting in the background and be supportive, so to speak?
Yeah, that's something that I'm like worried about happening as well. For me, my friends have all given me very detailed backstories, and it just so happens a lot of them fit in with like either stuff that already exists in the D&D universe and I'm pinching from like wikis, or just so happens to kind of coincide with some ideas that I've got, which is spooky, sometimes really spooky. But for me, some of today's game, for example, tailored a lot to our rogue. Just so happened that she had a ton of skills that were super useful in today's game. And sometimes that's the way it rolls. Sometimes one game, somebody's going to shine brighter than the other. And then the next game, that's not going to be the case. There's a lot of give and take. And just as a player, it's very important to know how to share that time with each other. Sometimes when it's good to hold back and let somebody else give it a go. But sorry, Carol.
No, I was going to say, you brought up a great point, which is, I have 2 children. So, one's 25, so he's not a child. But I have a 15-year-old girl, but I've had little kids, and there's something when you're throwing a party, there is that notion of, like you said, it featured your rogue. There is that notion of going, I can see my players not feeling as integral to contributing to the story. So I, as the host of the party for a kid, you go, oh, here's a thing that I can throw in your way that suddenly allows your rogue skills to shine, or allows your paladin skills, throw me some undead, allows your paladin skills to shine and step up. One of the biggest problems, back to what you were saying earlier on as far as questions go, is my characters not knowing what their characters are capable of. My players not knowing what their characters are capable of.
That's a good
and
one.
They keep relying on the same 2 things, especially early on in a campaign. And it took about 3 sessions before my cleric knew he could turn undead. like dude, and I kept going like, zombies.
And that's an offset, meaning how much as a DM should you go in and just tell them what to do, so to speak, or how
I
much
did that
do
last
you want
night,
them
Anna.
to...
You saw on the stream.
I know, but
Jay,
we know, Jay, you can run as a bulldozer because you can get away with it, so to speak. Some of us other DMs are not as lucky. We can't do that way.
It's such a fine line to like how much you get involved, because that character is not the DM's responsibility. It's the DM's responsibility to give them threats, as we've been saying. But it does sometimes get to the point where you're like, do you remember that you got this? Just saying, okay, you do you, kind of thing.
And also part of the fun of being a DM is to see the whole thing go to hell, literally, so to speak. At times that's part of the fun, so you don't want to spoil your fun by telling them too much. In the beginning, I always wanted to tell them all the stories and all the stuff. Now I don't, so to speak. And one of the other trick in that as being demon, only tell half the story and then make a little bit of a break and wait for some of the players to fill in the other half, because often they have a better idea than you have. You jot down that idea and realize that's a really cool idea, and you alter your plots on the fly at times, but make sure it takes a little while so the players don't immediately realize you've done so. Sorry, Todd.
Well, the other side of that coin is I learned from my DM, David Nett, who also has continuously been DMing since the 80s, like people at this table. If you need them to know something, tell them 3 or 4 times.
So true. It's so true.
Because they'll go, what? You told us that? Like, I did. I'm like, my mistake for only telling it to you once. Thinking you're maybe writing stuff down, but no. But he's like, make sure you tell them 2 or 3 times stuff that's obvious to you because it's been living in your head.
And don't show them any shiny things like something happened, whatever, because they will run after that.
Perception check. Perception check. And there's a stick breaking in the woods.
Exactly. They go like, oh, there's something, and they run, so to speak. So
Well, I think that the other piece to that question in terms of the engagement of those players is we all know you'll have some players at your table which you'll have no problem with. They will engage themselves no matter what. And you may have the slightly quieter player at the table. Doesn't mean they're not a fantastic role player, but perhaps they're less prone to inject themselves into a conversation. If you come back to the question of preparation, it's not my responsibility, as we said earlier, to find their motivation for them. However, if as a DM, I'm prepared by really understanding the characters and what their stories are. I weave their stories, their backstories, their backgrounds into the game. And so finding ways to, if you have that slightly quieter player, pull them in. It's part of that conductor's symphony that you are using. And it can be a mechanism as simply as what Lily mentioned earlier. Go to that player specifically, ask them to describe something they see, something they feel, pull them back into the game. And I find that universally in my games, the role play is good, but I think part of that is also the DM's responsibility to create an environment that is not only conducive to, but almost insistent of role play. I'll have you, if you watch my streams, I'll have players sometimes tell me, okay, my character says this, or my character does that. And I'll look at them and I'll say it, do it.
Yeah.
I had 2 weeks ago, Cameron sat right in this chair in Tears of Aird, and she said, and I let out a feral scream at the orc, and I looked at her and I said, and so she let out a feral scream. I think I have 3 lawsuits for loss of hearing on my stream, but it was a fantastic role play moment. I looked back at her and I screamed in her face. As a DM, when you create that kind of table, your players will be drawn into the role play, and they tend not to fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
I have a question for the group, unless Jay, you had someplace.
I have one little trick,
just
a quick little tip that I try to use to kind of to randomize the attention around the table. When I do perception checks, I make the players roll it, not because because that you kind of give it away, because that's like, oh, I should roll it and just tell them the result. No, I have the players roll it because that would randomly distribute my attention around the table, because dice are randomizers. So that way, whoever rolls the highest gets my attention, so to speak, and that tends to naturally just circle around it, and the players are inserted into the action by rolling the die and then grabbing my attention, so to speak.
Real quick, as a DM, make your campaign, make them vested all the time. Maybe it's just because I've been playing so long. I let them make custom classes. I let them come up with ideas for locations in my alternate era. I let them come up with plot lines. I'll say, look, guys, I have a mental block. Give me some ideas for 3 weeks from now. What group do you want to run? We have 27 adventuring groups. It's insane, right? Counting all the special groups I have. So, I listen to
world building. Your players are invested in the world building. That's a great tip. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks. Todd, you have a question for everyone. Let's see.
There's not a right answer for this, and I think it also depends on what school of kind of gaming you come from. I know where I kind of land, but do you feel that your players' characters are their backstory and their RP, or their stats?
Ooh. It's got to be a bit of both to a certain extent, but I think possibly leans, for me anyway, more to the backstory. I did this thing with my players when we were rolling characters, because, when you come up with, okay, I really like the sound of this kind of character, I want to play this as a player. If you then roll your stats and they're rubbish, then you're like, well, that's not going to work for the kind of character I want to play unless I play against that, which is fun. You can do it. Yep. So I let my friends roll their stats 3 times and pick one of the 3 lines of stats to then get the kind of character that they want to play. But for me, it's all about the backstory. Yeah.
I am probably diametrically opposite to that. In that I believe, and it might be just because of the way we came up. We decided back in the day what kind of character we were playing based on the roles we got. So you would roll up your character in order. You would roll strength. Boom, you put that down. You would roll this, put that down. And then you would look at that kind of in life where you're like, I am given this. And then I go, how do I take what this is and find the right career for it? As opposed to finding the stats to match your passion comes from, like, my wife was athletic, so she went and became a gymnast. Her stats were in acrobatics and dexterity, and so she found a place to put that. So, and I also, it's going back to what Anna said, rolling for perception, getting it back to the dice, get it back to the dice. We are our stats. We are like our proclivities, and we are good at lockpicking. We are good at this, which determines the kind of way the world meets us. I am rubbish at talking myself out of a situation. So don't put me at the front of the line because I'll roll shitty for that. And when I don't, well, that's a story point. If I critted on that, that's a story point that character was able to talk a way out of it. So that I'm always curious to see where people land with that, because I tend to think that our characters are their statistics, because that is how they solve the problems based on the dice rolls.
So
just a thought.
I like the thought, and I've played that way before, and I think I will go back to the diametric opposite of that, in that I've played that, but to me, I also love it when I see character that plays a stat block that doesn't go well with the character. What's to prevent someone with a low intelligence wanting to be a mage? And that's a fantastic.
Nothing's to prevent it. It's just the world will meet them differently.
Right, exactly. And
because they may be a rubbish mage.
Yeah. Exactly. And to the point is like this are the stats,
and that's their character.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. And so to the point is, are the stats really forcing them to the mage or what I like the best is, candidly, what we just did most recently, and I was influenced by Anna in this. In the Tears of Arid game, I started all the players as level 0. They were classless. I'm not saying the players had no class. I'm saying the PCs were classless. And we ran 10 sessions with them as 12 and 13-year-old kids. So they had a backstory that they had written as children. They were urchins in the free city of Altamira. We ran 10 sessions with them. They had 2 hit points. They had core stats, which were decremented based on age. And then they all had an idea of what they thought they were going to be when they started playing. By the 10th session, when they aged up by 7 years, and there was a story mechanic, it wasn't like awkward. By that point, they'd all chosen different classes than what they thought they were going to be when they started playing, and it's felt so organic. And now what you have is you had the original backstory that the character wrote, then you have the 7-year, then you had the week-long that were replayed for 10 sessions, and then you have the 7 years they were apart for the age up. So they really have almost 3 backstories now, and these characters are so enriched and invested. It's insane.
I love it.
And then John's going to TPK them. I'm kidding, John.
But John, it's good that you take it up, because that was one of my points for this campaign. I've done it once before to start without backstory, because I wanted it to be the players' performance and their ideas and their aspirations at the table that should set it, not how well they could come up with things. And the major inspiration for was that I had a bunch of players who never played in Greyhawk before. They didn't know anything about the setting, and I didn't want them to feel handicapped or come up with a lot of stuff that would be a hard fit inside the campaign. So I basically set them there as 15-year-olds and they basically knew nothing, so to speak. They've only seen this little village and that was it, so to speak. And we played from there, and 15 sessions later they have started to establish themselves in the world a bit, and now they're 5th level characters and they're starting, but there's still several who don't really have an idea what they want to play. So I have a classless system gearing up ready for them, so to speak. Cool. So they can so I want to take that aspect out of it. So I'm house ruling to fit my play style, so to speak. That's I'm going in that direction. So yeah.
It's awesome.
There's a great question. I think it's something that you, as a DM, you should figure out which motivation inspired you the most to run your games that way, and then emphasize more or less on those aspects. Yeah,
I've found sometimes if people will spend a lot of time, pages and pages and pages of backstory, it sometimes has shut them off from their other players because they're only playing the goal that they had planned.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You're right.
In their thing, because they had so much fun writing this for themselves that they're suddenly like, have you seen my lost brother? Where's my lost brother?
Yeah.
I need to find my lost brother.
Yes.
Are you my lost brother?
So you say that players can over prep too?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh yes.
Or you don't want your players to be that guy that you meet and tells you his whole life story in the first 5 minutes, right? Like that's just, I mean, and those people in real life, like they'll give you their personal details the first time you meet them, and it's just very awkward. So conditioning your players to be equally discerning and doling out the bits of their backstory so that the other players are curious and it feels more natural. That's where it really becomes fun.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic question, Todd. We've never 13 round tables, Never had that question.
Yeah,
I'm dead serious
awesome.
because we
Yeah.
never had that perspective.
I think it's an ongoing debate, especially
Yeah.
in this current era where we spend a lot of time in this hobby streaming. A lot of people do, and streaming is often for an audience.
Yes,
and so backstory is massive. RP is massive. Mechanics often take a very second a back seat. Exceptions. Of course, there's exceptions. Of course, there are.
Yeah.
But I'm saying what I've noticed when I've watched and sampled a lot of streams is it's very much about. And understandably, you're putting on a show. You're putting on a show because you want viewers and you want Patreon and you want all the things. So you want the audience to fall in love with these characters and their backstories and do the art for them and cosplay as them and all of the things that come with living in an online world. And since 90% of my gaming is not online, I don't have players that are doing voices. I don't have players that have come with tons of backstory. They're very much about how their stats affect their gameplay. Even though it's not crunchy, there's a lot of conversation and there is role play. It's just not as performative.
Yeah,
I guess you should say. So I'm always curious to see where people land with that question. Then see what I can learn from it and see how I can apply what their feelings are to
Todd,
mine.
I think a lot of that is the addition you started with too. I mean, 1E2E is definitely in that realm that you're discussing. Lily and the 5E is over here, and it just emerges in somewhere. Very crunchy in third, right? 3.0, 3.5 is very crunchy.
I was going to say, I was predominantly been a third edition gamer through most of my career. Third edition and Pathfinder formed like John. I think John and me are the same.
Yeah, I run the PF 1E highly customized, so I use some 5E elements. I like inspiration in a very similar method to what Todd described earlier. But to me, the way I run my game is really darn close to the way I ran it before I streamed. The mechanics are there. I work to keep them transparent. So the game moves, but it's a very crunchy mechanical game under the surface. Now, Jay does the best with this.
He's masterful.
I've ever seen.
Thanks.
In that,
Jay, you are masterful.
He manages everything for his players. Now, that's a style choice as well. But he, one of the ways he keeps his players engaged, he never has to remind them what they have, Lily, because he knows exactly what they have and he tells them what they have. Yep. If he has a new player, he's going to suggest to that player, "Hey, have you thought about using this spell in this situation or this circumstance?" Stylistically, I like to watch my players flounder around a bit more, but Jay is really masterful at running all of those statistics on behalf of the players. So the crunch is there, but the game keeps moving.
Yeah. I am in awe of that ability.
Very kind words from you both. Thank you so very much. Great. I want to ask a follow-up to that, and I usually ask this first, and I didn't, but I love to hear what the guests say. You have your own play styles. Did someone inspire you, a DM or someone else, or an actor, or a public figure? Seriously, into the way you DM. Second, part two. Who would you love to play in a DM's game? Who inspired you? Who would you want to play in their game?
All right, so I can go real quick. So for me, I was inspired. I don't even know his name. It was an old dude at the Hobby Hut in Upland, California in like 1983. And I was like a 12, 13-year-old kid that had been playing for a while. And I sat down at his table and I just felt this sense of immersion. And as a kid, and he was probably 50, and it just felt like so deep and serious. And it just blew my mind. And it became a stamp for me that I wanted to aspire to. I don't know where he, obviously he's probably long gone now, but he was brilliant. And thank you wherever you are, my friend. And then who I would want to play with? Well, clearly you've got him right here, Anna or Todd. I would love to play in either one of your games. Seriously, Anna, I've wanted to play in one of your games for a long time.
Okay, then we'll make it happen. Yep.
And so you gotta go to GaryCon there. Once again, Todd will open up an extra seat for you.
There you go.
It probably got Todd, how many games you DM in there?
I have one Mazes game. I'm doing an 8th level one shot, and then I'm doing the game that's in the back of my book, available at thenerdcircus.com. I will just shamelessly plug.
It's okay because I ran in that last year. It was
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
It was a
It's
blast.
fun. It's fun.
Definitely.
It's a fun game.
Yep.
So I'm gonna run those 3 games. I'm doing a first edition game that someone else is running on Thursday night. I'm sitting at the table. It's gonna be like a 6-hour game. It should be fun. And then I think I'm doing a Star Wars game that my buddy Jay Gellerman is running.
Cool.
Talk about masterfully making sure the players don't have to really know the mechanics as much, because I jump into this. It's a dice pooling narrative dice game, Edge of the Empire. It's fantastic. So as far as my shepherd back into D&D, and my DM is David Nett. So much of what I've learned has been from him, because I've been sitting at his table for 5 years. And then I steal little bits from watching other people. I love Abria Iyengar's work as a DM. I love how she manages combat. There's something really beautiful about how she gets the next person ready so that they feel when it's there. She's also running a show, which is amazing, is how she seamlessly gets people ready to act, and then out of that and in this. And I love her pacing and her storytelling. I've only played with her as a fellow player in a game called Nuked that my buddy Mike Neistel created. Cool. But I've never sat at her table as a player, and I would like to do that, as well as all present company accepted. I don't think I've ever sat. Oh, I've sat at one game of yours, Jay, and then I haven't played with Anna as a DM yet. But all company accepted. I would love to roll dice with everybody here.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my big influences as a DM.
Yeah, I love Abria.
Todd, I got something working on behind the scenes right now as we speak in Discord. So yes, absolutely. And Lily, how about your answer to that question?
So for me, so my ex-boyfriend got me into D&D and said, look, I've been watching these guys on YouTube. They're really good. I want to play this game. And it was, Matt Mercer and Critical Role. And yeah, they're the ones that definitely got me into it. Because at first I was like, what? D&D? Isn't that what, like, middle-aged men play in a basement? The whole stereotype.
Yes. Yes.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Yes.
I've learned nothing.
Thank you for calling me middle-aged. I appreciate that. I'm not old.
We are middle-aged, Jay, so don't worry about it.
If I live to 110, then I'm middle-aged.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so that's kind of what got me into it. I just loved watching, because I love acting, and I just loved, like, it was just role play. Just watching people play with each other, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And then for me, I want to play in one of Brennan Lee Mulligan's games. I think
he's masterful as well.
Phenomenal, phenomenal, like, storyteller, and just his energy. I don't know where he gets it from, but like how he just goes from 0 to 100 in a second is amazing to watch, and he's a masterful storyteller. Yeah.
Hopefully, we can make it all happen for everyone who said, seriously. I mean, the community's not that big, so there's opportunity out there, and
I've stolen from Dave Walters as well.
Okay.
He's a lovely DM as well.
Has really knows his stuff, and really is draws the crowd in to him.
He does. He does. Yeah.
Very magnetic personality.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've got a question, actually.
Please, Lily, ask it. That's great.
I'd love you guys to tell me about, like, one of your favorite places in the worlds that you play in.
Okay.
I've created a halfling village that I return to time and time again. It's a seaside halfling village on the Tethir Peninsula. I named it after my daughter and her best friend. And when you combine their names, it sounds like an old Irish village. And my daughter's name is Tilly, and her best friend's name is Kamori. So it's Tillakamori, which sounds like an old Irish village.
Yeah.
And it's like a little seaside halfling fishing village. And I just keep pounding it with misfortune.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Halfling villages always get abused.
Yeah, it's close to Moran, so that's the big, like, human whaling village. on the Sword Coast, and so and it's my way of making a Greyhawk village, but in Forgotten Realms. Yeah, excellent. It's like the Shire by the sea, a little bit of Sweet Haven in there.
Lovely.
But I keep setting a lot of things in that village, and I love it.
Well, I love that. And also, I'm a sucker for a good turn of phrase. And I assure you that pounding with disillusionment will now be in my lexicon.
Fortune. Misfortune.
And misfortune, yes.
John, how about you? Creation.
I played in so many settings. I think, Jay, I've followed what I think is a fairly standard path. I think we're going to see this with a lot of 5e players right now. Many people with the OGL debacle kind of bounced from D&D and started looking at alternative types of role play games. I played as everything from FAFSA, Star Trek to Marvel superheroes, James Bond role playing, Fallout,
Gamma World.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, post-apocalyptic, RuneQuest, MERP, Iron Crown Enterprises stuff, all of it. And I think but I always came back to these traditional D&D tropes, the sort of medieval feudal Europe, Lord of the Rings style influence. There's something about that as a setting which has always triggered my imagination in a way that really no other setting does. In Greyhawk, I loved starting Greyhawk Awakening in Hamlet because it is the most well-known, iconic Gary Gygax first module, Temple of Elemental Evil, just right. But I did it 40 years later. So it was, you had still people like Brother Smith, who's a dwarf. Of course, he's still there. Others are dead and gone. Osler Gundigut of the Welcome Wench is aged and decrepit, but still there. And that was a wonderful place to tell a story. And then, yes, pound that with misfortune when at the end of book 1, the town was slaughtered by Red Lords, servants of the Dark Brotherhood. Osler was killed. Byrne of Rufus and Byrne was flayed. His nether region severed, crucified on a tree as most of the rest of the city was hung. And that was where we ended book 1, my favorite place. And then also this guy right here we talked about earlier, Dark Sun. As I went through that journey, the only other setting that hit me in the same way was this, because it is essentially a post-apocalyptic version of those traditional medieval tropes, but it's arcane rather than nuclear, and you have this glorious desert setting with really unique creatures and monsters. And I don't do a lot of, as Todd said earlier, I don't do a lot of the funky turtle type races and stuff in my games. If others do, no shade, just not what I prefer at my table. But Thrycreen, oh yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic race to play in a game. I love the mule, the half dwarf, as a kind of a new character idea. Who doesn't want to play a half giant for a while in a game? It's a fantastic setting, and I'm not just saying that because I'm about to launch a game in it. I'm launching a game in it because it's one of my favorite settings.
And that sound you heard was me trying to accommodate John. Let me show this real quick for everyone.
Okay.
All right, John. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh.
You have the volume up, Jay?
Oh, you can't hear it?
We can't hear it here. They can hear it. But
yeah.
Oh, they can. Okay, good. Yeah,
they can hear it. You can't see it.
So that's custom music that you're hearing there. Oh, it's all custom music, custom artwork, custom settings. It's going to be insane. Starts May 2nd. Thanks, Jay.
No problem, John. I'm excited.
So Lily, I think when you said setting, I was thinking of like specific locations, but in terms of
that was
campaign
more
settings.
sure.
Campaign settings. I mean, I love Greyhawk. I know Forgotten Realms pretty well too, because there's just such an abundance of material currently. And when I came back to the game, I came back to it in Forgotten Realms. So, but within Forgotten Realms, where do I like to play? I'm currently in Cormyr. That's where my ongoing is set, in Cormyr, and I've had the city of Arabelle pounded with misfortune, and it has been changed to the town of Niamata because of this despotic ruler she took over. But yeah, so they went to it's the name is gone. It's the city on the Dragonmere. It's right there. Begins with an S. Anyway, Sylvain.
See, I don't know if Forgotten Realms. Ed's going to be upset, but I don't know if Forgotten
Realms.
Ed
is screaming when he's watching it. He's yelling at us.
Yeah, but so what I did, like what John did, is I moved the time period. I tried to. I said it's 200 years before the current setting, so it is a darker, more brutal time, just after a war that I had created called the Sword Coast Orc Incursion, and it's. I love how Greyhawk is just built on the ruins of war. Yeah. Like it is. You see the history of the place in ruin underneath your feet, and I do love Greyhawk for that. I have not set my own campaign that I've run in Greyhawk, but the one that I've been playing for 5 years as a player is in Greyhawk, and I do one-shots in Greyhawk all the time.
And that's go ahead. No, go for it.
I was going to say, for me, it's very much like when I run my campaigns, I pick an area of Greyhawk, and then because I run all my games in Greyhawk because I'm lazy and I know about it, so I want to stay with it. And so, but what I usually fall in love with are these small little places that I invent that are in between the big ones. It's not like, and I had a campaign around Devon when I moved to California 10 years ago. We had like 4 or 5 years. We played like 70 sessions or something. A campaign set in the area of Devon, and we're 2 little villages. One is actually called, it was 2 farms. It was 2 big farms of 2 families that were feuding and yelling at each other and so on and so forth around and did it. And their fate, so to speak, and seemed their misfortune was that it was the cat familiar of Karulk, the old court wizard at Rossi's. So he was the last of Ivid's court wizard, a 20th level archmage, lawful evil, servant of the 9 hells and all that, so to speak. So he was an awful archwizard. What happened to him, no one really knows, because all the chaos and the whole thing, right? But his cat familiar escaped and realized that I don't want to live in this mess anymore, so I'm going to go out and do my own adventures. And if you've been like a cat familiar for the last 50 years or so to an evil archmage, you pick up a thing or two, so you know how to do things. So he wandered around, and then he found this little village where people were gullible enough and they started feeding him. So he basically had fun, and he basically possessed every person in the village. And of course my staunch players, the characters came in, and of course they had a paladin that was like 12th level. I can sniff evil. There's evil in this village.
That's
and
great.
I need to root it out, so to speak. And so he goes around and starts questioning people and so on. And the cat was sitting there, and they were, oh, a cute little cat, and that was it, so to speak. And then with all that village, and someone was like, no, it's not me, and they started acting weird, and the cat had a field day, and the paladin was going around trying to torture half the village to death, and it ended up in a really, really awesome situation, so to speak. And the cat was like, this is awesome, and then they realized it was the cat, so to speak. And,
that's great.
And then it became trying to kill that cat. Yep.
And it's so devious.
Yep. So that was, but it was more spontaneous. I had the story of the cat, and I'm going to place it somewhere, and then was like, it's dull, nothing have happened, so let it be this, so to speak. And I just started riffing with it, and the players, the paladin was like, oh, I sense evil, I sense that gut feeling, and he was like looking for everybody and start questing them, and it was funny. It was a lot of fun. And yeah.
So for me, and then we'll go to some final questions. 1987, I go down with my friends down to Fairfax, Virginia. My friend Marco's staying down there. That weekend, I run just a third. I ran adventure. We finished Temple of Elemental Evil down there, Todd, in '87. My buddy Tim was on. He ran a game on the eastern side of Great Kingdom, and we needed a filler because we finished. And I ran an adventure where 3 paladins / cavaliers, the cavalier class was big back then, down. They found this site that has turned into my free city of Altamira. Right?
That's correct.
From here, from that, and now it's going to be published by Troller Games. And it's going to be ANerd and Greyhawk, and all you adventured there with 2 drink minimum. Lily and her and ANerdyGuidetoDnd, their group will be adventuring there. John's adventuring there on Sundays now in the aired version, and it's just like it's humbling.
It's your home.
Yeah,
it's home base. I love it.
Humbling that it's gotten that far. So
I love it.
Yeah, thank you all. So, for any 3 of you want to ask any more questions of each other?
Well, just a side note, Jay, I did purchase my copy of Mystic Libations.
There you go.
Can't wait for that.
Yes.
Can't wait for that. That looks like a blast. And then I'm trusting that what's coming through on my Amazon card or my Amex card right now as Lazy Cougar is in fact where
that's my Incorp. Yeah.
Okay, because it looked like I could get in trouble for that if my wife saw it. So.
It was long. I Incorped long before the term meant, randy middle-aged women.
That's so funny.
That's hilarious. I literally used Randy in that context today in my game. That's hilarious. Yeah. My players are probably cracking up right now.
So, if any last questions for the three of you for each other? I know we're getting close to time, and I have one, or Anna probably has one other one. I have one other one, and then we can call it a night there. So Anna, what do you got?
Okay, I started first on how you start a game, and I thought that one of my problems is to know how the heck to end a campaign, so to speak. They tend to go on forever. So that will be my final question. How do you, especially if you run a sandbox, how do you wrap it up, so to speak? Do you and can you kind of force it to end when you feel like this has gone on too long, or what's your strategies to
I'll
get
let you
out
know
of
when
the
it
campaign?
happens.
Okay,
exactly.
Yep.
Never finished a campaign, Anna.
I haven't finished
thing.
one yet.
Yeah.
Adventure paths are not campaigns, and I know for me, but let's see what Lily and John have to say about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lily.
Well, I haven't finished one yet, so we'll figure that out. But in my my dream as a DM is for it just to go on for years and years and years and years. I mean, my players are giving me so much to work with.
That's great.
For future plots, so we're set for quite a while.
That's fantastic.
It's awesome.
So, Jay, obviously, he's got the longest running contiguous, 43 years now. Although it's, I think, in some ways, a bit of a misnomer to call it a campaign in the sense that most of us think of. It's really a setting. It's a world that has had a multitude of what we would define as campaigns that just constantly take place. And this gives him this rich milieu of context for each of these games where the players really feel like they're in a living world. But for me, I don't like it when I see campaigns that peter off and don't get finished. It is so easy to start something with grand aspirations, and so many DMs or games will fall by the wayside. Real life often hits, and I'm not casting aspersions to folks when that happens. It just, to me, it feels very deflating. So I really like to take the campaigns that I run, even if they're multi-year, and have a satisfying resolution, even if that then spins into something else. So I just actually ended 2 campaigns that my Rune Lords campaign went almost 4 years. And it was an adaptation of the Paizo Rise of the Rune Lords based in Galarian, and it was highly customized. But I think, like any good, not to overuse this metaphor, but the conductor, when the piece is reaching its finish, when the audience has heard enough of the refrain, and when you're hitting that crescendo and you want to go out on the high note. You don't want to be, mixing my metaphors here, the retired NFL or basketball player that keeps coming back, when you're long past your prime. Yeah. So for me as a DM, you kind of feel the ebb and flow of the game. You have the narrative arcs that you're trying to bring to conclusion. And then usually you hit a sweet spot where, at least for me, you just know, and then you start driving it toward that conclusion where you have a satisfying moment. Now with that will come toward the end, perhaps a little bit more control or scripting than you had through the rest of the game, but that sometimes is necessary to create that smooth concluding finish. You don't want to be sort of the literary equivalent of Robert Jordan, the Wheel of Time series, fantastic and deep read, but he went so long between books. And of course, he died horribly of amyloidosis, but he hadn't finished. And so Brandon Sanderson came along and wrote the last 3 books of the Wheel of Time, but it wasn't the same as having Robert Jordan finish it. So my encouragement to any DM, if you have the ambition to start that multi-year campaign, have the fortitude and the vision to see it to a conclusion, because that will place you in the top 1% of all DMs that run long-term campaigns.
Yep.
Last question for you all. How's that sound? Okay, and I got one specifically for Todd. We'll see if I can get that off channel too on that one. It's a very specific one about Picard. So
okay,
yeah. Give the audience, who's been lots of DMs out there, give them a piece of advice. Give them something that this works for me, or I recommend this to try. Thought-provoking.
Yeah, there's so many.
Just
but
one,
I think one of the first one that comes to mind is listen to your players. Okay. If you don't listen to your players, you've got so much power as a DM, and it can go to your head quite quickly. I've been there with the previous DMs I've played with, and also kind of seeing that come out of myself a little bit. Like, no, you stay down. We don't need you here. Listen to your players. Like you said before, listen to like the conspiracy theories that they're coming up with. They could be useful for later.
Yep.
Be flexible, and that's when I find personally that the most fun happens in a game.
Listening's a great one.
Yeah, be ready to throw out your prep.
Yep.
At any given moment and chase down their idea, as long as it doesn't break the game. As long as it doesn't break the game, and you don't have enough, as John was talking about, like stuff there to fill it in front of them as they're going, if they are going left and you plan for right. But be ready to chase down. If you had hard fast decided that this character is the villain, but then, oh my God, what they did makes that the villain. Yep. Be ready to improvise and chase. Stay nimble is about the best 2 words I can give to you as a dungeon master. Stay nimble.
I love that, Todd. I'd say 2 things. One, don't fear death. Do not fear the Reaper. The part of the joy of triumph is the reality of the potential for defeat. And if you're especially in Twitch streams, to what was being said earlier, if the feeling is this is a production and we cannot kill the protagonist, then that feeling of invulnerability permeates the game and removes part of the
jeopardy.
Exactly, the jeopardy and the thrill of the game. Death is not something a player does or a DM does to a PC. It's something a DM does for a player to make the world that they're gaming in feel real and vibrant and alive and dangerous, which is ultimately why we play D&D. Unless you're in Anna's game, you don't play D&D to farm turnips. That's not shade. I want to farm turnips with Anna. That's not a euphemism, by the way. Then the second thing I would say is attempt the inspirational. You go for it as a DM. When you're crafting, don't be afraid to push beyond maybe your own boundaries. Don't be afraid to try a voice or to try a mechanism, to try a campaign theme or arc. Don't be afraid to step out and fail. If you are willing to fail, you will more than likely wind up telling great stories. If you're afraid to fail, you will tell stilted stories that don't touch the hearts of your players.
Good one. Great responses. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That was fantastic.
Yep.
So everyone, their questions. I'm going to take those questions specifically, and I will either send them via Discord or via Twitter to the people who therefore maybe they can give us a 1 or 2 line answer. I will do that, I promise. Why don't we do some shout outs here? And if you want to say something in synopsis while you're shouting out for this discussion, that would be great. I really appreciate you all coming, but we'd love for you to hear what's going on. I got some shout outs for your group, and then one little thing I'll discuss at the end. And Anna and I always can talk about ourselves on our other shows, right?
Oh yeah, we have Wednesday.
We have Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. So, Lily, what you want to wrap this up and say what's going on with your group?
Yeah. So come and watch us at Nerdy Guide to D&D. We're on YouTube. We're a new YouTube channel where we're trying to educate people on D&D, whether that's on little rules questions and stuff like that. And we got to interview Jay, which was really good fun. That's about it. Just have fun, play D&D, please. If you get the chance, just play it. It's great.
Yep.
So the Nerdy Guide to D&D group, at the end of the interview I did with them, I offered them to play a game at my Greyhawk. And so the 4 of them will be playing after GaryCon.
Yes.
A Saturday or Sunday morning in April. And I'm getting badgered in Discord by them all. See if Todd will play with us.
Oh.
So I'll reach out.
When is this?
Sometime in April, Todd, a Saturday or Sunday morning, late morning. Because they're in UK time. and you're West Coast time. So I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, I'll reach out to you.
Cool.
Yeah,
love it.
Can't wait.
Yeah, but I'm going to be playing with them, and then we haven't even made up characters yet because I'm so busy with GaryCon. But in April we'll be running
we'll
that.
Get to it.
We'll get to that definitely. It's a really exciting time. John.
Well, Jay, first of all, thanks for having me. As always, it's a pleasure. Jay and I linked up. It's been about 3 years, and he's become a great friend. We talk regularly, and I love participating with Jay and Anna. Always a pleasure. I still owe you that sketch, Anna. I'm going to get you. I need that by May 2nd, so we'll talk. And also, it's been a great pleasure to meet you, Lily. And just everything you've said tonight, I would play in one of your games in a heartbeat. Your players are in the chat. They're talking about what an amazing time they're having. So congrats to you. And Todd, thank you for spending time with us tonight. You are clearly a stand-up guy and a genuine gamer, not a faux gamer. And so thank you for that. For me, one thing I wanted to mention, it was actually mentioned by one of my players in the chat that I should have said also what I would recommend to DMs would be XP specifically for roleplay. When I always blend XP into my roleplay XP into my stat block, so it's not just the monsters you killed, but actually I've taken more recently to explicitly carving out how much of the XP they have gotten for puzzles, combat, and how much of it they've gotten specifically for roleplay. And when I give them the XP, I will tell them which were the highlight roleplay moments that led to that XP. This is the way you build a role, but for me, the way I build a role play culture among my players. All right, so Blue Box, absolutely, dedicated to trying to tell great stories and telling them. When we started the stream, my idea was my 18-year-old son. So I had gone through the same satanic panic, Todd. I started playing the game when I was 7, 8 years old. I've told the story before. I knew I was a geek, bona fide geek creds. When I was 8 years old, I found my stepfather's stash of Playboy magazines. And I would trade those magazines for lead figures to my friends. And I look back on that years later and I realize, like, what 8-year-old kid does that? You, sir, are a geek. And so I love the game. But then when I got into my early 20s, the whole satanic panic was really hitting. And I, because of my faith, put the game away for several years. And it was in my early 30s. I had young kids. I think they were 8 and 5 at the time. And I thought, man, this game gave so much to me: imagination, creativity, leadership. It encouraged me to read, vocabulary. Why would I not bring this to them? So I brought the game into my house. I started playing it with my kids, did it for 10 years. When I was 18, when he was 18, my son looked at me and said, "Dad, you need to stream this on Twitch." And I said, nobody wants to watch me play D&D on Twitch, Jordan. That's ridiculous. And here we are 3.5 years later. He was right. I was wrong. And when I started playing, the idea was I want to show people who've only seen 5e and maybe only come into the game through one way what the roots of this game are, and that it doesn't have to be a Grognard's game to harken back to the Gygaxian Arneson vision of the way the game was created. And that is what Blue Box is about: telling great stories in that old school vibe, but with all the new school tech and storytelling capabilities. My streams run 3 times a week. We do our Tears of Arid stream based in the world of Arid from Troll Lord Games. But right now we're in the city of Altamira, which is Jay's creation, exists both in Greyhawk and the world of Arid. The box set coming out next year. We can't wait. And the gameplay that's happening on Blue Box on Sundays right now is actually helping influence and craft some elements of the Altamira box set, which we're extremely gratified and proud of. And then Tuesday night, I run my Greyhawk Awakening game, which is about to go to book 3, brand new first level characters, starting off in the Sea of Dark Sun, which is the Sea of Dust in the Southern Flyness. And that goes from 5 to 8. And then Wednesdays, I run my Lore Master Arcanum show, which is more of a variety or talk show. I'm so excited. Jay's been putting some of it up here. So like this week, we do a 3D printing show. We'll be doing tips and tricks for how to do 3D prints. We'll have an FDM printer in the studio here that will be running live. But the one I'm super excited about is coming up a week from Wednesday, the 22nd of March. I have a stream. When I say the name, don't throw anything at me. This name was picked by the women in the stream that are participating. It's called Throw Dice Like a Girl. And I have 6 amazing women. I have Courtney, figuratively speaking, Minis. I have Ashlyn, the Dollar Store DM. Rachel and Cameron, who played Dahlia and Mila in my games. I have Mystical Unicorn. Amanda is going to be in it. And I have Meg, who's Biscotti Hottie and has played in my St. Jude charity streams. Those 6 women are going to be talking about their trials and triumphs as gamer girls, what they've encountered, unique challenges that men gamers don't face. But they're also going to talk about the triumphs and the things they brought to the table. I've given this the pseudonym of Creeps and Crits, and also Horrors and Heroinism. So it's going to be a fantastic 2-hour show. I'm just going to be there to ask a few questions and listen. It's going to be these 6 women talking about their experiences and how you can enrich the game with the diversity at your table. And I am super excited about it.
Everyone, John, we're really excited about your content and how it's really gone just like this over the last couple of years. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Jack.
Great.
Absolutely. And I knew you'd be a really nice enhancement to the discussion here, and thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Todd, what would you like to say in closing here? And
let's see. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I mostly play at home, so I don't have really any streaming things to advertise for you. I am doing a Jaspers game, I believe, on the 13th of May. Yeah, cool. I'm going to do that to raise money for suicide prevention. I'll have more about that on the road. If you want to see me pretend to do things, you can watch 12 Monkeys on Hulu, or you can watch the live action Kim Possible on the Disney Plus. I play Dr. Draken. And you can watch season 3 of Picard on Paramount Plus, where a bunch of old men took my ship. I play Captain Liam Shaw on that. As far as nerdy stuff goes, you can find me on Twitter at Todd Stashwick, Instagram at TStashwick. And then I sell a bunch of nerdy merch at the Nerd Circus. Dice and glasses and books and T-shirts and dice towers and assorted arcana. Arcana works.
One last positive shout out for Todd. The way I was able to get in touch with Todd, a lot of those that are actors, or Todd didn't have his Twitter instant message turned off. And I said, I didn't. I sent Todd a message.
Now I'm about to get an avalanche, Jay.
Thanks. Him, Jay.
I'm just saying that's how normal of a guy you are. That's how I reached out to you initially, and that's how normal of a person you are. And I really respected and appreciated that when we first.
And now if I lock them, I'm an a-hole.
But I have a feeling that people will respect it. Respect you, and so thank you so very much for coming on today.
I get horrible photos sent to me now.
Oh no!
Why'd you sound so hopeful, Todd?
And I will be the first here also to say, you need it. Hopefully, because we don't know how it ends, Picard. You should have a spin-off show.
These are decisions way beyond me.
I'm telling you, you and 7 of 9 together would be brilliant.
The chat is saying you're stealing every scene that you're in.
That's
oh my God, yeah, it's fantastic.
My feeling on that is Jerry Ryan told this story about when she first booked Voyager, they gave her a T-shirt that had the Delta quadrant, but it was behind bars and it said "Lifer," and so once you are part of the Star Trek family, you are in it for life. And I have felt the love of that from my cast as well as the extended fan community. People have been marvelous to me. If they ever need my sword, they know where to find me going forward if they want to use my blade. If all I ever get to do is this season of Picard and having been on Enterprise, and that is my contribution to Star Trek, boy, that's an embarrassment of riches in and of itself. So
Yep.
it would be, if they wanted to have me act more for them, they know where to find me. I have not heard anything, professionally speaking, from anybody that would be making those decisions. So often they listen to the fans. The fans rose up and said, "Hey, we want Star Trek: Strange New Worlds," and lo and behold,
what
they
a
got
great
it.
show that was too.
Yeah.
Anson Mount is unbelievable in that too.
He's terrific. He's absolutely terrific.
I agree 100%. That was such a refreshing series.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's terrific. And so and that came about because fans spoke up. So if you want to see more of this, you got to bug Paramount. I can't, I appreciate the vote of confidence and the joy that they're finding in the season. But yeah, going forward.
Okay. Well,
awesome. Thank you.
It's well deserved. It absolutely is.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
And Anna and I and everyone else. There's a ton of people on the audience are cannot wait for GaryCon. Week and a half.
Yeah.
We'll be there in a week and a half. So we'll talk about
full into prep
agendas and buying drinks at the bar. And Ed Greenwood wants to hang out with all of us. So, and Ed's going to be there this year.
Also, I'll probably be masked because I just I came back from the Star Trek cruise with the COVID, so I wasn't alone. I will say this: I'm fully vaccinated, and I took the Paxlovid, and I knocked it out very quickly.
Awesome.
Good.
Science, man. Imagine that. But yeah. So I probably will be masking at GaryCon. It's a convention. Second convention that I got COVID at, by the way.
Wow.
I got it at D23 as well. So
you can always pull that mask out, hit the drink, and back.
It's
right?
Oh yeah. It's apparently there's still a pandemic going on.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
FYI.
Yeah.
So true. Anna, anything in closing?
Oh, I just thank you all
Yes.
for coming, being here, and to audience to show up and ask wonderful questions and comment and supporting us. It's I feel very privileged to do it. And also I have to say I'm sorry to my patrons because I've been kind of absent for a couple of weeks trying to wrap and do as much as possible getting ready for GaryCon. It started. I posted the teaser screenshots of the pamphlet and the handout that I would do for GaryCon today. Okay.
I can throw that up real quick.
Yeah. So, but there's more coming. That's the only thing I'm going to say. There's more coming.
Well, that's my Alienware screen.
There.
Yeah.
Hey, Anna, while Jay's figuring out his tech, is it true that your brand new, ridiculously overpowered PC is causing brownouts in Southern California?
Yeah, it's kind of. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. Actually, the day I'm leaving here, they're shutting down the power line to
tell everybody. I mean, I've got a beast of a box. Tell everybody what you have.
Well, I have basically I bought the most powerful Intel PC you can buy, so to speak. And
you're running 128 gigs of RAM, right?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I could
128 gigs of RAM.
I have 128 in mine.
I have 64 in mine. That does just about whatever you need.
3900.
Yeah, I put in as much fast SSDs that money could buy and squeezed into it. So it's only the graphics card that is not.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yep. So it's just to get it up and running, and it worked really. It works really well. But
that's
a couple of years
that's what happens when you do your maps down to porta potty level detail.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Which is what she called like those little 5x5 grids. Billions of pixels in her maps. Billions.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So we're going to do this real quick on the giveaways. One of them's an STL company, and I'm going to pick 3. And then we'll decide. Hopefully, three of you will have a 3D printer. If not, then I'm going to bug Chuck for another Troller Games gift certificate. Chuck, unfortunately, couldn't be on in the audience tonight. So, but Chuck, of course, is trying to get into my game with Ed Greenwood on Saturday at GaryCon. We'll see what happens on that. So here we go. Let's see who wins. Rob Phantom NJ, you're getting the Infinite Dimensions gift certificate.
Let's go, Rob.
I know you have a 3D printer. Rob played in my game last night.
Yeah.
And Curtis, all the way from San Francisco. Curtis, Todd, his group were the winners of the GaryCon tournament last year, and they're coming back to defend their title. So a regular in our community, a great person.
Because D&D should be competitive.
Exactly. Lastly, Celtic Boar. All right, I got it. That's an easy.
Let's go, Thomas.
Easy enough for all three. Lily, thank you so very much. Wonderful input. John, wonderful input as always. And Todd, great to see you and fantastic insight. And we're going to raid into our friend, of course, Darling Creepshow. And if you did not see Phil Mafani last night, her male gnome, illusionist thief, it was something crazy to behold in the game I ran last night. She was on fire. It was a wonderful.
I love it.
So go check that out. Everyone, you have a good night. We'll see you Wednesday. We're back on for Legends and Lore. 3-stream week coming up. Nice and short.
Thanks, Jay.
See you soon.
Nice meeting all of you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks, Todd.
Yep.
Bye, Lily. Bye, Anna.
Bye.
I'm going to hit the raid up here. And you guys feel free if you have to. Sorry, Todd, about the Twitter thing there, but I just wanted to know everyone how genuine you are. I know you're busting my stones too. Yeah. So, but just a wonderful.
Twitter might cease functioning quickly.
A raid. All right, we got 108 in this raid. Awesome. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enjoy, darling. We'll see you Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Todd, good talking with you. I'll get with you on Twitter, and I'll see you in a week and a half. Have a good one.
Take care.
Yeah.
See you, Todd.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.